everyone. We know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel, so if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land with ILTV, have no worries. It's time for our show, ILTV's Weekly Review, where we'll give you the scoop on everything you need to know about the last 7 days right here from Tel Aviv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, here to keep you informed. The Israeli military has just announced that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad still possesses tons of chemical weapons and that there's no doubt his regime was behind the April 4th gas attack against his own people. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, alongside British and Turkish laboratories, have now confirmed that sarin, or a similar toxin, was used in the Idlib strike that killed nearly 90 people. A senior Israeli officer says intelligence indicates that Damascus is still stockpiling up to 3 tons of these kinds of banned substances, despite its 2013 agreement to destroy its chemical arsenal. The officer also dismissed the U.S. cruise missile strike on a Syrian airfield in response to the gas attack as a strategic turning point, but described it as just another development in the 6-year civil war. While Iran once enjoyed hegemony in the Arab Republic, the official says Tehran lost control when Moscow deployed its own troops there in 2015. He's added that the hardline Islamist Republic is funding the rebuilding of the Hamas terror group's military capabilities in Gaza with up to $70 million a year. Now, returning to the sarin attack, Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman says he's 100% certain it was directly ordered and planned by Assad. France agrees and announced it will provide proof of these allegations in a few days. Israel closely monitors the Syrian civil war but has largely stayed on the sidelines. The Jewish state carries out occasional airstrikes against the movement of weapons to Iranian-backed Lebanese Hezbollah terrorists just across the northern border. Israel's now working with the United Nations to return more peacekeepers to the frontier. The force abandoned its bases after being attacked in 2013 and 2014, and the vacuum was filled by Syrian rebels, including an affiliate of the radical Islamic State terror organization. About 120 UN soldiers returned to their posts last year, but Israel would like to see more stationed to uphold the 1974 ceasefire with Syria after the Yom Kippur War. New reports from the Palestinian Authority show that Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is actually willing to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in Washington. ILTV's Aaron Porras is here with the scoop. Aaron?
Well, in an interview published by the Japanese news site Asahi Shimbun, Abbas was quoted as saying, quote, "I am ready to meet the Prime Minister of Israel anytime in Washington under the patronage of President Trump," end quote. Let's take a look at my report for more.
Abbas also hinted that he would demand a freeze on settlement construction as a precondition for future peace talks, despite Netanyahu publicly calling for Abbas to return to the negotiating table without preconditions. Yesterday, the White House announced that Abbas will meet with President Trump on May 3rd to discuss the restarting of the stagnant peace talks between the two parties. A few weeks ago, Abbas told United States Special Peace Envoy Jason Greenblatt that he believes a historic peace deal between Israel and Palestine is possible under the Trump presidency.
One person has been wounded in a car ramming attack in the West Bank today. The terror incident took place at the Etzion block junction just south of Jerusalem. Soldiers at the scene shot and neutralized the driver of the vehicle. The Army has not yet released any information about the condition of the assailant, but is claiming that he was not killed. The victim is reportedly around 60 years old and was taken to Jerusalem Hospital with light wounds to his head. The Palestinian assailant who stabbed a British woman to death last week has been ruled fit to stand trial. Last Friday, 57-year-old Jamil Tamimi from East Jerusalem stabbed Hannah Bladon to death on the Jerusalem light rail. Bladon was an exchange student in a program at Hebrew University. Tamimi told police that he wanted to die and had attacked Bladon in hopes that the soldier standing next to her would kill him. Earlier that morning, Tamimi had been released from a mental health facility in northern Israel. He had then traveled to Jerusalem to visit his family, who ultimately refused to see him because he had been convicted of sexually abusing his own daughter. The family of his victim, Hannah Bladon, says that she was the most caring, sensitive, and compassionate daughter you could ever wish for. Just prior to her death, she had given up her seat on the crowded light rail to a mother and her newborn. Yesterday evening, England's Derby County Soccer Club held a minute of silence before its game in honor of Bladon, who had long been a diehard fan. The Israeli public is furious and saddened today after two Palestinian sisters from Gaza were caught trying to smuggle explosives into the Jewish state. What makes the attempted terror attack particularly scandalous is that the women were permitted to enter Israel so that one could be treated for cancer. According to the Shin Bet security service, the pair hid the explosives in tubes normally used to store medical supplies. Fortunately, alert security guards at the Eretz crossing into Israel discovered the materials which are needed to make explosive devices. Both of the Arab women were arrested and are undergoing questioning, and a bomb-defusing sapper was called in to handle the explosives. Preliminary investigation has determined that the sisters were acting on behalf of the Hamas rulers of the Strip to help carry out terror attacks against Israelis. The Shin Bet describes the foiled attempt as part of continued efforts by Hamas and other terror groups to abuse the humanitarian aid that Israel provides to Gaza residents, all in an effort to kill citizens in the Jewish state. It's those same citizens, by the way, whose hard-earned tax dollars fund the treatment that the Gazans receive free of charge. Hundreds of Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails are now entering the second day of their mass hunger strike as part of a protest that's been called on by the prominent prisoner Marwan Barghouti. Palestinian officials claim 1,300 prisoners are participating in the strike, but the Israeli prison service estimates that the actual number is about 200 less. Israeli officials also say the strike is politically motivated, which seems to be born out of statements from the prisoners' supporters.
أوقات الإضراب هي أوقات حرية للأسير الفلسطيني غربة عن الطعام، وهي يعني كف فلسطيني نرفعه في وجه باطل هذا الاحتلال ومخرج هذا الاحتلال، يمكن أن ننتصر عليه بأقل الإمكانيات بالأعمال الخاوية، وهي أيضا لغة خطاب للمجتمع الدولي وللأحرار العالم أننا كفلسطينيين تواقين للحرية.
رسالتنا اليوم في يوم الأسير الفلسطيني، كل التحية لكم أيها الأسرى الأبطال خلف قضبان الاحتلال، ونحن نقف من ورائكم وأنتم تخوضون معركة الأمعاء الخاوية ضد هذا السجان، هذا الاحتلال، ونقول لكم إن قضيتكم تقف على سلم أولويات المقاومة، لن يهدأ لنا بال حتى تنالوا حريتكم.
Many of the prisoners were convicted of terrorism or planning attacks against Israelis. The protest is being led by Barghouti, who's serving 5 life terms after being found guilty of involvement in the murders of Israelis during the Second Intifada uprising between 2000 to 2005. The 58-year-old is a leader of the mainstream Fatah movement of the Palestine Liberation Organization. He's very popular among Palestinians and widely seen as a possible future Palestinian president. He claims the open-ended hunger strike is against poor jail conditions and the Israeli policy of detention without trial that's being used to hold thousands of suspected terrorists since the 1980s. Other demands include 2 family visits a month, more television channels, greater access to cell phones, and the restoration of academic studies and matriculation exams within prison. The New York Times is taking heat for publishing an op-ed written by the Palestinian prisoner Marwan Barghouti, who is being held in Israeli jail, yet failing to mention his bloody past. Barghouti's piece explaining causes behind the hunger strike appeared in the Sunday edition, but instead of identifying him as a jailed terrorist, the Times said the author was a Palestinian leader and parliamentarian. Reaction has been swift and furious. The head of Israel's Yesh Atid party, Yair Lapid, is accusing the paper of intentional deception by portraying Barghouti as some kind of freedom fighter who was only imprisoned for his views. Former Israeli ambassador to Washington, Michael Oren, is slamming the op-ed as a journalistic terror attack. He's also pointing out that the piece was published on a Jewish holiday when the Israeli government couldn't respond. The American Jewish Committee is tweeting that the paper must have forgotten Barghouti as a convicted terrorist who's responsible for the murder of innocent civilians. Before being jailed, Barghouti led Fatah's armed wing and founded the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade terror group, in addition to his 2004 conviction on 5 counts of murder and 1 attempted murder. He was sentenced to serve an additional 40 years for responsibility in 4 other terror attacks. Following the publishing of his op-ed, Barghouti was moved to another facility and is now being held in solitary confinement. It's being investigated as to whether the article was smuggled out of prison by Barghouti's wife or his attorneys. Israeli security services are reporting a resounding success rate in their new campaign to actually catch Palestinian terrorists before they act. Military intelligence agents are now working with the Shin Bet security service to monitor the internet for red flags. In less than a year, the operation has so far caught 2,200 Palestinians in the act of planning attacks against Israelis, which were mostly stabbings or car rammings. An estimated 400 of the suspects have been arrested and now face prosecution for conspiring to commit crimes. It's all the result of heightened cooperation between cyber experts in the Israeli army and the Shin Bet. And in other counter-terror efforts, Israeli security agencies are also implementing closer ties with international intelligence services in the United States and several West European nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making a rare move by speaking out against the behavior of two members of his own Likud political party. The premier apparently felt compelled to issue such a statement after witnessing Knesset members David Bitan and Miki Zohar get into a shouting match with the parents of fallen soldiers. The argument broke out at an official meeting about the government's handling of the 2014 conflict with Hamas. Netanyahu reportedly said both lawmakers behaved in an unnecessary manner and harmed attempts to involve bereaved families in a public debate over the critical report released by the state comptroller 2 months ago. Some of the parents of the fallen IDF soldiers from the 50-day conflict made emotional allegations about mismanagement by the premier, leading the two Likud Knesset members to start shouting at them. Bitan even screamed that one father was a liar. One mother, Dr. Leah Goldin, accused the government of not doing enough to force Hamas to return the remains of her son Hadar, along with the body of another soldier, Oron Shaul, who are still being held for ransom in Gaza. She added that Netanyahu is turning the families of the fallen boys into enemies of the people.
הפכת אותנו לאויב העם. הפכת את הבעיה של השבת הבנים מהקרב לבעיה של משפחות, והפכת אותנו לאויב העם. אל תענה לי, לא שאלתי אותך אף שאלה. אל תענה לי, חצוף שכמוך. אני אפילו לא יודעת איך קוראים לך. חצוף, תשתוק, תשתוק.
הטענות שלך מוגזמות, גברתי, ברצינות.
אתה לא תדבר ככה להורים שכולים, על מה אתה מדבר? על מה אתה, איך אתה מעז בכלל? אתם איבדתם את הבושה. תהיה בשקט, ושראש הממשלה ייקח אחריות, ותפסיקו מה אתם עושים פה, הפכתם את זה לקרקס.
3 שנים, אנחנו שומעים עושים כמיטב יכולתנו. אנחנו שומעים אני גם אח שכול, אבל את אח שלך החזירו. בסדר, אח שצור לא יחזירו, והסברתי לך בפגישה האחרונה, דבר איתי על הבנים שלך, דבר איתי על הנכד שלי שהוא לוחם בסיירת גבעתי שהלך בעקבות אורון. הממשלה אחרי 2.5 קיבלה את כל ההחלטות, וזה לא עכשיו עניין של איום אסטרטגי, אתם יודעים בדיוק מה לעשות ומטביעים את הכל בוועדות וועדות והחלטות, וזה היה עניין לדוח הבא של מבקר המדינה. על אי קיום החלטות הממשלה, וזו הנקודה בזמן שאני מדברת איתה אחרי 3 שנים, לא אחרי חצי שנה ולא שנה ולא 2. ואיפה פה חברי הכנסת שהתפרצו כל הזמן? איפה לשמוע אתכם? מתי בפעם האחרונה העליתם שאילתה בכנסת שיש 2 חיילים בעזה? אין לכם ילדים שצריכים להתגייס? תתביישו לכם, ולא אכפת לי אם אתם שמאלנים או ימנים. כולנו יש לנו צבא עם, כולם מגייסים את המשפחה שלהם. דממה, רק משפחת גולדין מדברת, ומשפחת שאול כבר אין לה כוח לדבר.
Knesset member Zohar responded by calling the grieving mother's claims exaggerated. As one local TV station is reporting, the legislator broke a major unwritten law of public governance in the state of Israel, which is that no one should ever get into a confrontation with bereaved parents. Both Knesset members say they've apologized for causing any offense. All right, in sports-related developments, Israeli officials are now working behind the scenes to thwart the latest Palestinian campaign to see Israel red-carded out of the FIFA International Soccer Federation. The Palestinian Authority has been trying to force Israel off of the field since 2015. This is because 6 of the Jewish nation's teams are based over the 1967 lines. FIFA's bylaws bar any country from setting up teams in another country's territory. A draft report by a FIFA committee on the issue in March basically scolded Israel for supposedly violating those rules, but dropped any mention of a possible suspension. It's now been discovered that PA Football Association President Jabril Rajoub is requesting the matter be added to the agendas of the FIFA Council in Bahrain on May 9th, as well as the FIFA Congress, which will meet on the 10th and the 11th. Israeli envoys based all over the world are now engaged in efforts to persuade their host nations to help prevent the item from being brought to a vote. The next FIFA committee report about the settlement teams is due sometime next week. Israeli sports fans are hoping for a positive outcome to keep politics out of the game. So, meanwhile, Aaron, it looks like the Israeli Tapa crossing into the Egyptian Sinai will remain closed to the Israelis, according to Israeli Counterterrorism Bureau. Tell us more about that.
Well, the crossing's been closed since Monday, April 10th, which was just before Passover began. Originally, it was closed ahead of the holiday for fears that there were terror attacks that would either target or impact Israeli tourists who were going into the Sinai. The Counterterrorism Bureau has stated that the situation has not gotten any better, which is why they are continuing to keep the Taba crossing closed.
Although not everybody's happy about it.
Exactly, and thus they decided not to reopen the crossing yet until further information comes out.
All right, well, let's check out your report.
A group of Israelis attempted to overturn the closing, citing violations to civil liberties. But the High Court of Justice sided with the CTB, saying the threat was genuine, and therefore the government had the authority to close the passage. Roughly 17,000 Israelis have visited the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt since January, but it seems like any future travel plans may have to be canceled for the time being. The CTB said it would review the closure, quote, continuously over the next few days in accordance with the situation, end quote.
Secular residents of Tel Aviv are celebrating today now that even more businesses are going to be allowed to stay open on the Sabbath. The High Court has just rejected a petition seeking to close down all business operations on Saturdays. The verdict allows 164 supermarkets and recreational areas to remain open on the Jewish Day of Rest. Mayor Ron Huldai is reportedly greeting the finding as a declaration of freedom for his city. But ultra-Orthodox Interior Minister Aryeh Deri is blasting the decision as a desecration of the Jewish Sabbath. He and other religious politicians are vowing to lodge protest with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Many Jerusalemites are monitoring the situation due to a similar disagreement over the opening of businesses on Saturdays that's been going on now for more than a year. Now, they say that age is just a number, something I personally believe, but this month that's clearer than ever in the Holy Land. Check this out. What's more competitive than getting into Harvard Business School or Stanford University? It turns out getting yourself onto the Forbes 30 Under 30 list.
This is the Forbes 30 Under 30 from Israel.
Hey, I'm Partha, and I made the Forbes list for making crutches that don't hurt your armpits.
Hi, I'm Michael Sifu Huang. I'm on the Forbes list of art and style, and I founded a museum in Beijing.
We connect students to tutors via text messaging for homework help, and I'm on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for education.
Hi, my name is André Laurenceau, and I'm on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for pioneering virtual reality and live sports together. So you have the game in front of you, and so if you look behind the goalpost, there's a little white dot.
Okay.
You can look at it, and it'll teleport you behind the goal.
So
you
just looking at it, I don't touch it. Wow, this is unbelievable.
You got it?
All of the faces you just saw are under 30 years old, but they're some of the biggest game changers on the planet. They're the 4% of over 15,000 people that have been selected for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, which brings together the world's youngest, most innovative minds.
For the first 10 million years of human history, to start something of significance, you needed to be older. Nobody would take a 25-year-old seriously even 15 years ago trying to raise money. This is the first time in human history that it not only is a playing field level, but it's actual advantage to be young.
I make stop motion animation videos, so animated videos. So brands come to me if they have like a campaign or a product they want me to promote. I used to sell cars like 4 years ago, and I just made a video on an app called Vine. It got blown out. Like everyone loved it. The people that made Vine loved it. CNN picked it up. Fox Media picked it up. Mashable wrote an article about me, and brands started reaching out to me. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this for a living. So I quit my job of selling cars, and yeah.
The power of the internet, people, the power of the internet.
It's amazing. Like I tell people, my life changed because of 6 seconds.
Lots of celebrities have made it onto this year's list also. From basketball star Amare Stoudemire to plus-size supermodel Ashley Graham, who's on a mission to change how the world views female bodies.
I've literally just been doing what I feel that I'm supposed to do, just modeling, talking to women about who they are, who they want to be, being comfortable in their own skin. And I think social media gave me a voice, but I also think that just now is the time. Women want to hear from someone who's just comfortable with who they are and isn't afraid of a little back fat or cellulite.
This year, the Forbes 30 Under 30 event happens to be in Israel, and over 600 recipients from over 30 different countries will be exploring the country while connecting their ideas.
This is the home of startups. Israel, in terms of the stats, it's one startup here every 8 hours. There's one startup for every 2,000 people. So what better place to bring startup founders than Startup Nation?
So how can you get yourself on the Forbes list? Social media star Tyler Oakley has made millions from a career started on YouTube, and he has all of the advice.
I think the most important thing is to recognize what you want in life and what you value and what you bring to the world, what only you can do, and chase that.
Should you worry about your age?
No, never. We 18-year-olds, we don't worry about that.
When you start your laundry machine, all you need to add is some washing powder and a bit of fabric conditioner, right? Actually, you're wrong, according to one Israeli student who's figured out how to use your washing machine to cook your meals, as it washes your clothes. Guess it might be time to add some hot sauce into the mix. Iftach Gazit is a design student in Israel, and he's created boil-in-the-bag meals that you can just throw in with the laundry. Whether your meal consists of a steak with garlic and herbs or a salmon and teriyaki sauce, all you have to do is wait for it to come out steaming and ready once your washing machine is finished doing its rounds. The boil-in-the-bag meals come in waterproof Tyvek bags that include instructions as to which washing temperatures they work with. In other words, if you're just steaming vegetables, you can set your machine to a short hot cotton program. And if you're looking to cook a piece of meat, dial your device to a long cycle of synthetics. So how did Gazit come up with this idea? After researching the daily routines of homeless people in New York, he learned about how useful laundry shops can be to those without homes. Laundrettes can clean your laundry and fill your water bottle, so why not cook there too? All right, despite the shaky relations between the United Nations and Israel, the UN is now reaching out to the Jewish state's top medical professionals to help the world. The United Nations is about to send a special delegation to the Jewish state geared at recruiting as many qualified candidates as possible. Female physicians are especially being welcomed. They'll be offered critical positions among the peacekeeping forces deployed in some of the world's most contentious areas. There is a specific interest in Israeli doctors because of their vast experience in the field and emergency services. Israel's UN ambassador Dani Danan says the human capital in Israel is the secret to the nation's success, and that there's a particular pride in the many women who lead this profession. All candidates should have more than 5 years of experience and speak English or French. The most sought-after physicians should be emergency medicine and trauma specialists or pediatricians and psychiatrists. Just this past November, the UN's World Health Organization recognized the Israeli Army's field hospital as the best in the entire world. The team is frequently deployed abroad to help other countries recover from natural disasters and other catastrophes. In fact, Israeli doctors with the Israel Humanitarian Relief Organization are on the ground right now in Peru and Colombia, supplying aid, medical treatment, and counseling to the victims of the recent massive floods and mudslides in both Latin American nations. Every year, the Israeli government invites a number of accomplished Israelis to light torches for Israel's Independence Day. Well, this year, it's going to be a little different. The Ministerial Committee for Ceremonies and Symbols has just released its list of torchbearers, and for the first time ever, it includes two non-Israelis, Birthright co-founder Michael Steinhardt and founder of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, Rabbi Marvin Heyer. The two individuals were chosen because they personify the concern and work being done for the future of the Jewish people and reinforce the link between world Jewry and Israel. That's it for this week's Roundup. Tune in next Friday for our next episode of ILTV's Weekly Review. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from Tel Aviv.